Hello, welcome back to the KNOW program, Knowing All That Is. This is video 2 of 2. So we're going to continue talking about all that is, and we're going to get a little bit more specific. And you need to know about the levels of existence and how differentiation or duality is achieved by self-fractioning, and then how this duality will allow experiencing and thus resolving the primary drive. And we'll also be touching upon the origin of energy. So the primary drive, which is all that is wanting to experience itself, is achieved through self-fractioning. And we quickly talked about that before, and I'm going to quickly discuss it again. So there's this systematic folding or hiding away a dimension of being at a time, creating a whole new level of existence with different characteristics. Whereas initially all that is infinitely aware, we now can imagine a situation where by taking away a dimension, a new scenario is arrived at, whereby a whole new level of existence is created, where perfection and infinite awareness across time and space, as well as across all frequencies, is no longer the case. As the dimensions of being are removed one by one, these levels of existence are quite different. As more dimensions of being are removed or folded away, they're not really removed, they're hidden. But as they are hidden, the characteristics of the levels of existence change and become further and further removed from this complete infinite perfection of awareness, which is what all that is. It's outside of time and space. And as these dimensions start to get removed, you then get the creation of time and space, and they cascade all the way down to the level in which our awareness, our awake individual awareness, is defaulting to when we are awake, and that is the physical world in which we live. That physical world is quite a few dimensions of beings removed from the initial level, and as you're going to quickly get a grasp as we move through, you will understand that in fact that awareness, that individual awareness which is experiencing in the physical world, has a presence and has attachments right through, cannot detach itself. It is continually attached to all of these various levels of existence, but it is only experiencing and only aware of itself as an individual point of awareness in the physical world, very, very far removed, many levels away from its origin. By the way, just know that all that is creation of existence is cyclical. So it expands into existence from a single point. You may have heard of the Big Bang, just under 14 billion years ago. It continues to expand until it reaches a point where it then begins to shrink, and it will shrink again many billions of years from now until it shrinks into a single point, and then it repeats the entire cycle. So the Big Bang and the origin of time and space will then cycle continually in and out of existence. The universe will expand and it will shrink until it becomes just a single point where again time and space disappear, and it'll just repeat itself. And that is how all that is able to experience and have that primary drive achieved in these cycles of existence. Obviously we are in a cycle of existence right now because we are functioning within a universe that's been created just under 14 billion years ago. Now, this table you won't find anywhere, just like previous times when I've said to you in previous workshops that a lot of the time you can go and look up stuff. There was a technique that I pointed out that you won't find outside of LGO, and this you won't find outside of LGO, because certain things we've had to put together to bring the knowledge and to bring actions together and forward for you in a way that makes sense. And these are not available. This particular table on the levels of existence, the way that it's describing how the 10 dimensions of being are folded away until we are left with the 3 dimensions of being in the physical world, and how this creates at various levels. Now, remember, each level has many sub-levels, but those sub-levels will all obey the same characteristics of that level, and they will also have the same base matrix within that same level. And the aware entity in each of these levels is also changing. Even though we are experiencing as an individual point of awareness, each of us as an individual point of awareness, These actually come from groups of awareness, and right at the start of the folding away, the awareness is not only in a group, but it's unified as one. But we'll go into this as the workshops move forward. So levels of existence, don't worry about the details on this table. This isn't for you to memorize. It's not for you to try and remember any of the details. It's just so you can get a quick grasp and a quick understanding of these levels of existence, starting outside of existence where no duality exists, no experience is possible. The levels of existence which you're going to be looking at now are level 1, the universal level, level 2, the singular level, level 3, the spiritual level, level 4, the conceptual level, level 5, the mental level, level 6, the emotional level, and level 7, our physical level, where we are defaulting to in our awake consciousness. The infinite awareness, as it folds away portions of itself, the dimensions of being, creates entities that are now different to a degree from infinite awareness. So you have universal consciousness, singular universe consciousness, spiritual awareness, intuition awareness, mind awareness, fear and desire or emotional awareness, and then brain awareness, which is our individual ego awareness. And then dimensions that are hidden. We have various dimensions, and some of these words were put in here in a way to carry across what characteristic was hidden or folded away. Like timelessness was removed, phasinglessness was removed, 3D spacelessness was removed, time jumping, phase jumping, 3D space jumping. All of this we'll go into some more detail in the expert webinars. It's not essential for you to understand all of this at the moment, but just know that these are dimensions of being that were folded or hidden away in a cascade fashion, and immediately you get a perceived lack or a perceived less than, as the entities are then formed in these various levels. And it's that perception of lack or perception of less than that creates a difference, a potential difference between higher and lower. And this is now how energy is then, if you want to use the word created or originated, is in these potential differences between the various points in the levels of existence. Once you start to perceive lack, you then have a misinformation. And that misinformation is corrected with the energy flowing across, correcting the misinformation, correcting from positive to negative, from one point to another point. And we'll get to that in the next slide. Just the characteristics as far as the actual awareness in each of the levels of existence. In the last column here, we look at the awareness and how it starts to lose, one dimension of being at a time, how it starts to lose the ability to perceive infinitely. This is quite difficult to explain in one sitting here, so I'm not going to go through it now, but just know that the way in which infinite awareness, which has initially no duality and cannot experience, as the dimensions of being are folded away and removed level by level, the awareness is changing characteristic, and those characteristic changes are listed here in this last column. But we'll address this in later workshops in a little bit more detail, and a lot more detail in the expert webinars. So as far as the perceived effects, which are now going to allow for continuing experiencing, these are the most important ones. With these folding of the dimensions of being by all that is, and the creation of these levels of existence, you're going to get energy flows, and the energy flows are directional. These are information packages, little tiny information packages that are moving across, and they are created once there is a perceived lack or less than from the folding of the dimensions of being. And then you have time and space being created. You get duality, and you get base matrix. These are essential for the ability to experience. You need to have darkness in order to experience light. You need to have absence of something in order to experience, and the lack of something in order to experience a desire for it, and then the acquisition of it. So duality and the base matrix in which ongoing experience occurs at each of these levels, then made to be present by these dimensions of being folded away. And it's useful and utilized by the aware entities at each level by shaping the base matrix. And then, as I mentioned before, the awareness, which is initially one awareness across everything, becomes group awareness, and then it becomes individual awareness. And we also have the word individual consciousness here, but I prefer to use the word individual awareness. And then the origin of energy, just need to know that tiny bits of information are flowing in one direction. And this is done when folding of these dimensions of being is creating a potential difference. For example, positive and negative, we understand electricity and we understand attraction. And we're going to look at in the expert webinars at not only things like quantum physics and string theory and the dimensions and how they overlap with these dimensions and the folding away of these dimensions, but also things like the nuclear forces, magnetic forces, and then you'll start to get a deeper grasp of how energy is actually created. So I'm just going to touch here in these workshops very quickly across what really is important for you to know and to grasp. But then if this is stuff that really interests you and you want to get into more of the detailed information in the expert webinars, you're going to be provided that. So female and male, dark and light, higher and lower awarenesses. This is now an important concept to understand, that as the folding of the dimensions occurs, the awareness not only becomes more focused, and that's how you get to individual awareness, but also it becomes very linear and less three-dimensional and less complex. So even thought becomes more linear as you come down and becomes more focused. But you lose a lot of the ability to be able to understand concepts and to have the same degree of insightfulness as you come down these levels. So we call that lower awareness. It's more focused, which allows for more intense duality, more intense experiencing, but very much unable to be able to expand its awareness to group awareness or what's happening outside of itself. This is also going to be an important concept for you to understand, is a flow of energy from loving to loved. So this is the knowing all that is, know, which is, you must just know what is meant by all that is, eternal and outside of time and space. And then the primary drive, which is to experience itself. Then experiencing is achieved through the creation of the levels of existence by folding away dimensions of being. And then just a brief understanding that the origin of energies brought about by these tiny bits of information coming across these potential differences. Knowing all of this will motivate you to take some action in knowing all that is. And how to become consciously connected to your inner true self, which is now moving you closer to all that is, higher up in the levels of existence. This will be in the action items, in the action videos that are coming up. And then you just need to start off by learning how to remain consciously aware and present outside of the ego. And this is what we're going to go into in the action videos coming up soon. And with that said, let's keep going.